There's some things that you should do and some things that you absolutely should not do when you're wondering how to help a negative person become more positive. When we're trying to help someone in our world who is kind of negative to become more positive, the first thing I would encourage you to do is start with the person inside your own skin. Start with you. Your example of positivity is going to do much more than anything you could ever do to lecture or try to teach or try to persuade or influence someone to become more positive. Your example is huge. So start with the person inside of your own skin and make sure that you've got some skills in place around positivity. Now, because you're here at Live on Purpose TV, I know you're probably tracking this. There's a lot of videos, especially in the personal development playlist, that will help you with that first tip. There's some things we got to watch out for too. So here's your first do not. Do not tell them that they need to be more positive or label them as negative. This might already be an issue, especially as you're thinking about that person that came to mind when I mentioned what this video is about, how to help a negative person become more positive. You've already labeled them as negative. Even though that's probably true, it's a little dangerous and counterproductive because that sets up a natural kind of defensiveness. It's almost like their guard's going to come up. Even if you don't tell them out loud that you think they're negative, watch how you've labeled them in your own mind. The truth of the matter is, they're people. They have up days, they have down days. They have strengths, they have weaknesses. They're people. Somehow their negativity has crept into your perception of them. And it might be because of your relationship with them or your role with them or whatever, a recent experience that you've had. That's not the only thing about them, however. And for you to adjust your own perceptions will be a powerful way that you could possibly have a greater influence in that area of their life where they've been showing up as negative. Here's another do. Do share what has inspired you. This is a tricky one sometimes because let's say that an episode of Live on Purpose TV has inspired you to think in a more positive way. And awesome if it has. I'm honored to be on your team. You might want to share that with the negative person, which there I go, labeling them again as negative. You might want to share that with the person that you have in mind. We don't want that to look like, oh, you really need this. That's why I phrased it the way that I did. Share what has inspired you. So if there's an episode of Live on Purpose TV or maybe an episode from Live on Purpose Radio, my podcast, or anything else that you've been connected to that is really inspiring to you, put it in the context of how it has assisted you. You know, I really loved this episode. It helped me to see some things about how I was thinking that I hadn't noticed before. See, it has nothing to do with them. When we share, we're being vulnerable. We're saying what has made a difference for us and helped us in our life. And it's through our caring for that other person that we want to share it in the first place. Along those lines, let's go to the next do not. Make a list of things that they should do. You know, you should really listen to this podcast. You know, you should really try to do this more or do that more or do this less or do that less. When we give this list of shoulds, then we become their mom or their drill sergeant, you know, telling them all of these things that they should do. You know how that affects you. Don't get yourself in a trap where you're doing that to someone else that you care about. Another thing that you could try, this is an experiment. Do a 5-day experiment where you, for each of these 5 days, practice sharing appreciation or gratitude for some specific thing about that person. They might not be expecting this. In fact, they're probably not expecting this. You're going to do it as an experiment. So you just kind of slip it in the most natural way that you can, where you mention a specific thing, not a general, oh, I appreciate you. No, what do you appreciate specifically? So it might be your coworker, Alicia. And you say to Alicia, you know, Alicia, I really appreciate the way you handled Mr. Smith the other day in the office. I was so impressed with that. Okay, that's a specific incident that you share with her in terms of appreciation. You got it? What if it's your spouse? What if your spouse is stuck in some kind of a negative funk of some kind? Well, pick something that you appreciate. Honey, thank you so much for that delicious meal. That was awesome. And that counts. Do 5 of those in a row, 5 days in a row where you're expressing appreciation. If you really want to power it up, do like 2 or 3 things each day for 5 days. This is going to be really cool. In addition to the way this changes your own mind about how you're thinking about that person, it's also going to be really cool to see what impact it has on their behavior and their attitudes. A little caution here about what I've just shared with you. If you're doing it for the purpose of changing them, probably it's going to backfire. Do it for the sole purpose of the experiment. Okay, the 5-day gratitude experiment where you're expressing appreciation about specifics to that person. Just see what happens. One final thought that goes on the don't do this list. Don't make a list of demands or instructions or ultimatums for this person. You're not here to prescribe some kind of an intervention or a cure for them. They will naturally resist that. Trust that if you show up as the example and you're doing the gratitude experiment and you're sharing things that have inspired and uplifted you toward a higher level of positivity, as you're doing those things, they will naturally respond to you in a different way. This is something that in physics is known as sympathetic resonance. And in music, we can observe that if you start a tuning fork, have you seen these before? It's a metal fork-shaped thing that you strike it and it resonates with a particular tone. And if you start that ringing, whatever pitch it is, and you run that along the strings of a harp without touching the strings, the one that's the same frequency will start to resonate with it. Sympathetic resonance. Because it's on the same frequency and those waves vibrate, it's attuned to that frequency. As you bring your own frequency up a level, the people around you that are in your environment or surround you at work or at home will begin to resonate at a higher level too. This is how we can naturally increase the positivity of the groups that we belong to. And it starts right there with you. Isn't that awesome? As we all work on this together, the positivity of our whole world can increase, and especially as you choose to share what you're learning here. Would you take a moment to share this episode with someone who means a lot to you? I would appreciate that too. In the street alone. Her head was down, face locked onto the phone.